Here we have the Magician card. This is my favorite card in the tarot deck. So just looking at this, first I'm going to start with the number one that's at the top, centered. This is the first step of going on your journey. As I spoke about the Fool card previously, that this next step is basically taking the elements that you have out of your carry bag, if you will, to make things happen. And when you're beginning a journey or you're starting off things in the world, you usually start with very little to nothing. And this is what this card represents. However, it's a lot of power in this card. Just looking at it, I can tell that this is an individualistic card represented by the number one. And there is a wand held inside of this magician's hand, of course, right? And this person is also doing the pose of as above, so below. You might have seen this in other statues and figures throughout history or what have you. And this is actually in a historical figure too. Tarot's been around for a long time. But this wand is like lit at both ends. It has representations at both ends, which also represents as above, so below. So what this person, this messenger, if you will, is stating just with body language is that they have the power to manipulate what's done on the earth by aligning it with what's done in the heavens or what's thought about in the heavens. And this is strongly individualistic though, right? This is about a person who can make this happen. And the white clothes underneath the red cloak is a representation of purity. The headband as well, the wand as well. So when I see magician, I think of good magic, or what people call white magic, the ability to, do the correct things when it comes to manifestation, even if it's just for yourself, because this card is a representation of self. So no matter what, you want to do what's best for yourself. And this is what this card is representing with this white clothing and this white wand. Also see what is that, white lilies in the vegetable garden at the feet of this magician, and there are roses inside of that vegetable garden as well. So we take the roses into account. We talk about desire. Then we also talk about desire when we talk about the red and the cloak that's being worn as well. So there has to be passion with this individual in order to make these things happen. When I see this, it means that you got to be passionate about what you're doing, because if not, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to connect the heavenly realms with the materialistic world. It's just not going to click. So passion and drive and desire has to be associated with this practice. And on the table here, we see the magician has each of the elements on the table to work with. It's not a whole lot of them. It's the bare minimum. It's just one of each. So you see, he got one pentacle, he got one cup, he got one sword, and he got one wand. That's all he needs. Just one out of each suit to make things happen, because he's the magician. He can make things grow from it. And another representation I see is, okay, so at the top there's roses, but it's also like it's a vineyard. It's actually a vineyard. So there's grapes that come from there, and grapes are symbolic as from back in the days as well, as a, for the chalice and stuff like that. And Jesus turned water into wine. One would assume that he watered some grapes and crushed them. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying, he didn't get it that descriptive back then, but that's what I see. You know what I mean? And so that's as the above, right? That's like the religious, if you will, or the spiritual aspect of as above. And then when you take into account that Mercury rules this card, then you get to say, oh, okay, so Mercury being associated with the sign Gemini, that's talking about the thoughts. That's talking about the head in heaven. You know what I'm saying? The thoughts that come from up above, from the heavens. And that's why the grapes are representing the spiritual association with that. And when it comes to the feet, you have a vegetable garden, you have vegetation there, you have lilies also represent purity and white lilies, of course, represent purity, innocence, things of that nature. And the vegetable garden at the feet is a representation of how Mercury also rules over the sign Virgo. All right, so it's like a more of a correlation so people can understand that as above, so below. You got Mercury, which rules an air sign, Gemini, and it rules an earth sign, Virgo. So it's as above, so below with that correlation right there. So what's thought of in the mind can be manifested on the ground, on earth. Air sign, earth sign, makes perfect sense. You see the correlation in the depiction here. Let me not leave out, well, the wand is also a symbol of a phallus, right? So, it is what it is. But it's also a representation of the number one. So, the one is shaped in the shape of a phallus as well. You see phalluses all over the world. You know what I mean? This is nothing new, people, nothing new. There's also an 8 over this magician's head. Now, the 8 is the sign of infinity, and it's tilted sideways, of course. And, it's like the Taurus field. It's like the Torah field above this magician's head. And it's telling you how things move in cycles. And now it's also a representation of two worlds, the manifestation of things thought of in the mind and bring to the physical state, or we can call it the metaphysical to the physical, and that 8 is a powerful number. The 8 also represents wealth, abundance, power, and this magician is showing you that all of those things can be obtained just by starting with what they have, the simplest of things. Now, more on the astrological interpretation of Mercury ruling this card. Mercury is the lower octave of the planet Uranus, which is ruler of the sign Aquarius. So here again is another mention of air energy, the sword energy. And Mercury is previously or historically known as the messenger of the gods, Thoth, Hermes, and is associated with a whole lot of things, all forms of communication, commerce as well. Sometimes people leave that out. Commerce is ruled by Mercury, and the deliverer of messages. So this card, I would say astrologically, is underestimated, if you ask me, in my opinion. I've read that somewhere as well, and it shouldn't be underestimated though, because Mercury makes a lot of things move. Mercury has the ability, because it rules over Gemini, to weave in and out of the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, and is the vessel or the channeler of obtaining visions and messages from the other world or from the heavens and communicating them to the earthly realm, right? So this is where the consolidation of ideas and stuff like that gets formed, or at least the communication of them, right? So remember, this is just a starter card. It's like the starter kit. So those other people or groups or factions are not here as of yet, but tarot is a story, so you'll see eventually how those things come into play, but it needs to be initiated, and this is the initiator right here, the magician, who makes it happen with what they have. I just love this card, yo. Another thing is that the magician card shows you that what you see in reality may be a mirage, and what you imagine in your imagination can be the truth. And you have the ability to manipulate things on earth, people included, all types of things, to fit your imagination. It's possible. So think of it as like a hologram. And I'm not saying to drive people nuts or do it the wrong way. I mentioned about purity and pure intentions and stuff like that. But also be mindful that, Mercury is the trickster of the zodiac, of the astral realm. So, but just keep that in mind, and yeah, you can do those things. Now, in reverse, this card just means, wait, show some patience, because you might not have the intuitive skills yet. You might not have even the energy to manifest what it is that you want to manifest. So it's better to wait before prematurely trying to do some magic, and you just don't have the spell work, you don't have the energy, you don't have the passion, or you don't have the, you just don't have the wherewithal in order to get it done properly. So this card reverse means to show some patience with your desires so that it doesn't unravel improperly.